Registeel. Let's just do a quick overview of why I don't like Registeel. Well, first of all, let's look at the other Regis. Their lore is that all three of the Regis were molded by Regigigas out of, I think it was like an icy mountain, rocks, and magma. You know, Regice and Registeel, they actually do look like piles of material. Regirock, at least, actually does look like a pile of rocks, like it was put together from boulders that were just lying around and given life. But Registeel doesn't look like that. It doesn't have that rawness to it. Instead of looking like a pile of material, it looks like a manufactured robot. So to me, that already doesn't fit with the lore of it, but on top of it, it also looks like a robot, and as you probably know, I don't like Pokemon that look like robots. So the challenge is to come up with a Registeel that still sticks to its original lore of being a golem molded by Regigigas, but that also at the same time, even though it's steel type, doesn't look like a robot. And I've been racking my brain over this, but here's the few things that I kind of know that I want to do with it. First is that I think it should be based on a meteorite, because Registeel's metal is said in the Pokedex to not be of this earth. So a metallic meteorite seems like the right source material. Meteorites, a specific kind of meteorite, I think it's when they're cut and maybe they have to be treated in a certain way, but they have this really interesting pattern that makes kind of triangles, and I think we could work with this. I think we could use this in the design somehow. And then the other thing is that meteorite impacts sometimes can cause the rocks around it to turn into a sort of glass. This is Moldavite, it's a particular kind that has happened in Germany. Like, I really like this color. I think some crystals, some green color, something could be used as accent colors for just like little details or something in there. I have not been able to come up with specifically a body shape that I find interesting enough. This looks a lot like the Regis we already know, right? This looks a lot like Regirock. And that's another thing. I want to avoid Registeel looking too much like Regirock. So another idea that I had was a big kind of boulder-like thing. Less humanoid. I do kind of like this one, but it's also maybe too unconventional. One of the reasons that Registeel looks so robotic, and all the other Regis as well, is because they don't have a face. Is because those 7 dots are their eyes. This was something that Indigo brought up. These would look less like robots. These would look more personable, maybe, if they had faces. If we put dot eyes on them, like, sure, they look like Regis, but they also still look like robots. So I did think of doing something that could maybe serve as a face, but would also reference that triangle pattern from the cut meteorites.
The beginner's mind is the mind of compassion. When our mind is compassionate, it is boundless.
Can't say I particularly like any of these. This is, I think, the one that I like the most. Like, if the eyes are triangles, they could still maybe have expression. Just because they're triangles doesn't mean they can't close and wink. Something else that Indigo mentioned yesterday that would have been really cool is if the Regis were enormous and, you know, maybe you go through the whole side quest of finding them, and once you enter the cave where you would encounter them, rather than encountering the Pokemon in the cave with you, maybe you discover that the cave, that mountain, is the Pokemon. So I was trying to think of ways to make them look more natural. Not look more natural, but like look more like things that could blend in with the landscape more, which is kind of the point of the second and third bodies here. The other thing is the braille is pretty important to them, right? I came up with this pattern, which in Japanese braille would read as Shichiru, which is the second part of Registeel's name, the part that says steel. It does have a lot more than the 7 dots that the original Regis had, and I think it would be interesting to use this on it somewhere, if not their face, somewhere else. The one thing I like about the triangle body on the top left is that it has more stature. It looks taller, it looks more imposing. What if we flipped the main body on its head? Okay, sure, let's go with this. Let's go with this sketch. Just gonna give it a little bit of color. Some brown because it was part of the landscape, but also a little bit of moss or something. Well, I like it. I think it's looking pretty good. I don't know that I think it doesn't look like a robot, which is good. I don't know that it looks enough like a Pokemon yet, so maybe there's something I can do maybe to the face or something to make it look a little bit more Pokemon-y. I assume the braille lights up like the Regis do in the shows and stuff, so if the braille is lights and has a band, why don't the eyes have a black background similar to the band for braille? I kinda like it, but I also just think it's a bit too much. here's the thing. The more I look at it, the less I like this 3D moss on its head. I think it's looking too much like hair, and I'm thinking maybe it should just be a green pattern in the same way that the earth and rust is going to be. I'm pretty happy with this. I think it accomplishes what I set out to do. I think there are ways it could be better, I just don't know what they are. For next month's redesign, the options will be Metagross, Bibarel, and Carnivine. And the poll will be running on the community tab on YouTube. The link is in the description. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think of this redesign, and tell me what you think of other ways that you think it could be better, especially if you're one of the people who actually liked Registeel. Don't forget to leave a like and share this video with your friends. If you're new here, you can subscribe, and if you want to support my work in other ways, you can check out my Patreon. Links in the description. I'm Umbreon Libris, and I'll see you in the next chapter.